The three ages of women are the maiden, the mother, and the crone, each with its own power and magic. I'd now like you to meet three young women, maidens. They span centuries and continents, and their stories will touch you, cutting through the lies and myths they're silencing. It won't be easy listening, but applaud their courage, their resilience, and celebrate their truth.
It is so cold, cold to the bone, a cold that never leaves me. Another long day of scrutiny. You don't know I'm also watching you as you file past my body. The light is dimmed and I am subtly illuminated, the star of the show. My possessions laid out like evidence. My special belt woven by my mother, the dried coca leaves from my pouch. I note your clothes. They tell me how far you've come to see me. Some of you have traveled across oceans or have flown like condors in the clouds where the air is even thinner than in the Andes. Some of you look a bit like me with flat Incan features, though your eyes are like almonds and your skin isn't burned by such close contact with the sun. You speak languages I don't understand, but I can tell what you are saying. I can read your thoughts. Your bodies speak clearly. Sometimes you bring children. I don't know why. I wouldn't want my child to see this. To see me like this. I wouldn't want my mother to see me like this. I have stopped being surprised. I have stopped wondering why you come at all. Curiosity, a sense of the macabre, seeing the body of a child who has been brutally murdered laid out for your delectation. Some of you seem inured to death. Others recoil, thinking me grotesque. You don't hide your repugnance. Look at that. It's horrible. Her skin is like leather. Where are her eyes? Or the ghoulish disappointed. I can't see her wounds. You can't see them for her hair. Is that real or a wig? You don't come out of pity. Nobody would want to see this for pity, though I think some of you go away feeling that. Mothers usually. Young girls, my age, just reaching puberty, struck dumb by coming face to face with me across the centuries. Look at her clothes. It says her mother made them. Must have taken her ages to do that. It did. Every stitch done with love, making me look my best for my big day. At the end of the day, I think it is the end of the day, though the muted light remains the same, as does the low, constant hum of the motor which preserves me in this suspended, frozen death. The flow of people stops and the building quietens. She arrives, the woman who cleans these rooms. She is like the servants I knew, her features carved out of the rock of the Andes, the rock of the mountains surrounding Arequipa, the land of 1,000 volcanoes. She hums as she works, old tunes I recognize from my childhood. Sometimes she talks to me, telling me about her day, her family, her troubles. And how have you been today, little Juanita? Have you had many visitors? Juanita is what they call me after the man who found me frozen on the top of Mount Ampato. A conquistador name, not my own. An insult to me, an Incan princess. But she speaks the name gently and affectionately. I don't know her name. I think she senses my despair, my loneliness. She is moved by the woven belt my mother made for me for my long journey up the sacred mountain. She understands that my mother made it to protect me, to give me courage, and the coca leaves she packed to help me with the altitude, snatching the shallow breaths as we climbed our weary way up the frozen mountain. My 12-year-old legs shaky with fatigue. The cleaner looks wistfully at the artist's impression of me in my ceremonial clothes, the fine alpaca gown my mother made, and the headdress of blood-red macaw feathers that they put on me when we reached the summit. I sit huddled in the clothes she made me with such love. We didn't think I would be wearing them 500 years later. She asks, "Did you know, little Juanita? Did you know what was coming?" I knew I was special. I knew I was chosen. I knew I was leaving my parents for a different life. How could your mother bear to let you go? I can still hear mother's sobs as father, ashamed, drags her off me, and I am led away to start my journey. In the semi-gloom of the museum, the cleaner's voice is full of anger. If it had been my daughter, they would have had to kill me first. She shouldn't judge my mother. She doesn't understand the honor. I am chosen as the most beautiful and purest. How my father is stiff with pride. My mother holds me so tight I cannot breathe, running her hands gently over my hair, my limbs, as if preserving their memory in her fingertips. The cleaner tells me proudly of how her Silvita is a good girl, a credit to her parents. We share that, Silvita and I. Though for her it brings fame as a drum major in a marching band, whatever that is, twirling an ornamental mace. For me, it brings this eternal deathly cold. You, my visitors, watch the film of the slow procession up the mountain. Priests and porters carrying the gold and offerings to the gods, watching as actors gasp for breath, pretending to be us as we climb higher towards the peak. It wasn't quite like that. It took a long, painful time to get there. My mother's coca leaves did little to combat the cold and altitude. I can still taste them, dry and fibrous in my mouth. You gasp as you watch what happens next. I can barely bring myself to think of it for the horror and anger. I am made to kneel on the soft, unblemished snow, dressed in my ceremonial finery. Did you know, Juanita? I hear the priest's sharp intake of breath as he stands behind me and raises the club. And I know. My skull still shows the force of the blow which displaced my brain, the scarlet agony flooding my whole being, and then the bitter cold. 500 years of bitter cold. The bitter cold of this frozen glass tomb, the bitter cold of your curiosity. I am the one chosen to save my people from the anger of the mountain gods. Their fury spews out in flowing lava and burning rocks, making the earth heave and the sky dense with sulfur and dust. But the gods are still angry in Arequipa. The earth still convulses like a woman in childbirth. I feel the tremors in my icy cabinet, hearing the alarm in the voices of my visitors. They found the bodies of 13 children on the top of that one mountain. And still the earth protests at the actions of men. And what do I want? My life back. Dignity, respect, a decent burial. But that won't happen. I am too valuable a find. I have so much to teach you. As you file past me, I want you to look into my eyes and see my reality. I want you to learn what I have to teach you, to protect and value your children. I want to haunt you until you cannot ignore the thousands of children sacrificed to appease the gods, sacrificed to the gods of war or money, sold, trafficked, lives obliterated. Every one of them, like me, was special. The cleaner picks up her bucket, turns out the light, and says, "Sleep tight, little one," and calls me the name my mother gave me. Qamki Sumakcha, You are marvelous.